Hello and welcome to TransForm Tuesday. I'm Dave McCormick, VP of Product Management. I'm joined today by Sarah Mitchell, head of our documentation department. And today we are going to take yet another step back in terms of going back to basics with Alpha Transform. With the launch of Alpha Transform Analytics, it made it really easy for people who are not professional developers to create complete solutions that allowed workers in the field and frontline workers to collect data and send that data back to back office workers who can now analyze that data, generate reports, see dashboards, and so on. Originally, TransForm had been designed as a system that was meant to integrate with other systems, but as it's become its own standalone system, we're seeing an awful lot of interest. And so with that in mind, we've decided to devote the next 2 sessions of Alpha Transform to the basics of how to get set up with Alpha Transform and the things that you could do. If you've been here a while, you'll probably know most of this stuff, but there might be some things that you can learn. This might be a kind of video that you might want to suggest a friend watch so that they can get up to speed, or a colleague or an employee. And if today's session goes well, it will in fact be used as part of an on-demand webinar. So you folks here are making history. So let's get started. But before we do, Sarah, if you were there, can you let me know if you can hear my voice and see my screen?
I can.
Excellent. Thanks so much. Okay. Also, just to let you know, well, a few things. You can also always ask questions during these sessions. You can type them into the questions box of the GoToWebinar control panel. And also just to let you know, after the next 2 sessions, we plan to go into a deep dive as to the on-submit events in Alpha Transform, things that let you automatically send emails and make webhook calls and lots more, generate reports, all kinds of great things, kick off workflows. So we're very excited about that. But today we're going to start here at the beginning. So here we are at part 1 of our demo, where we were going to build a form for performing inspections of equipment in a building. Now I'm going to go ahead and open up my browser and go over to Alpha Transform. We also call this Transform Central. It's just at transform.alphasoftware.com. And if you don't have a username or password, just click Don't Have a Username and Password, and it will take you to a sign-up form, which will give you a free account that you can use for 30 days. I'm going to go ahead and sign into my account. And if I type that in right, there we go. It takes me to this screen here, the Select Account screen. Now, if you are brand new to Transform, you're not going to see this screen probably, because this screen only appears if you have multiple accounts from which to select. So I have accounts, for example, Sarah, who's joined me today, has an account, and she shared some account access with me. So maybe she'll let me fill in forms or something like that. Also, Scott Allen, another colleague, he's shared his account with me, and then I have a few of my own accounts. You might just have one account, you might have a few, so you may not see this dialog box, and if you don't worry about it. So today I'm going to be using my account that I call Dave Experiments, and I'm going to click Select Account to open that up. And now here we see Transform Central. If you'll notice along the top, there are 5 tabs that divide up the interface. There's Dashboard, which is actually what we're going to get to next week. There's Home, which you can think of as the settings for the application. Maybe you've seen other applications that have like a little gear or a settings box around where my mouse is. That's what this section is here. It's all here on the Home tab. So we're talking license numbers, how you want your name displayed, how you want your account displayed. You can set that all here. So if you wanted to change your name, you change your name, display name. And for account, if you wanted to count the account name, you change that here. The one thing you're going to need to do, though, right out of the bat, is you're going to want to put in a license number because you're going to need that to make it work. Even when you get the trial, you're going to get a trial license number sent to you via email that you can use, and you're going to put that in right here. So I'm going to tap on license keys to show you what that's about. And this is my license key, and if you steal it, it won't work for you because it's tied to my account. So nice try. What you do is you paste your license number in here, and then if you want to, you can click Show License Information, and it tells me, aha, this is a 3-user license. and it expires in March of 2022. So I'm good for a while now, because right now it's only June of 2021 when I made this video. All right, after I did that, I would click save. I don't have to because my license is already saved. And then my account would be opened up. And then these tabs, which you may not have seen when you first logged in, will appear for you. All right, so that's just the basics of getting your account set up. Let's go ahead and build one of those forms, and we're going to do that here in Designer. So I've tapped on the Designer tab, or I've clicked on it with my mouse. And what I see here are a list of forms that I have created in the past. I have created a whole bunch of them. When you log in for the first time, this list is going to be completely blank, and that's okay. So if you want to add a new form type, which is the very first thing you should do, you just click the plus button under Form Types. And here you have two choices. You can start from scratch by adding a blank form, which is what we're going to do, or you can select a template. And let me show you that option. If you say select template, you'll see a list of forms that we've already built for you. They're in different industries, such as manufacturing, construction, healthcare, and so on. And these are just popular form types that you can use, or they could start as starting points for your own form type. I don't want to use any of these today in our example, so I'm going to go ahead and click cancel. And instead, I'm going to build a new form from scratch. So I'm going to click plus, and I'm going to click add blank. Cool. Now what we see here is a property sheet has appeared. And over here in the preview, we have the very beginning of our new form. In fact, our new form doesn't have any fields or questions on it. It just has this heading. And I'm going to go ahead and change that. So I'm going to call this, let's see, this is TransForm Tuesday. So I'm going to say TT inspection form. All right. And then I'm going to give the form an ID. I could just use it as Form 1, but trust me, later on, it's very handy to have this. In fact, when you're doing work in the dashboard, to give this a sensible name. The name can't have spaces, so I might just call it something like TT inspection form. And then it says that's okay. I don't have one that's named this already. That's great. So I already have my form up here. Now, how do I add fields? There are two different ways to do it, and I'm going to show you the one that we recommend first because it's really, really easy. It's a great way to get started, and it's called Input Quick Start Text. So I'll click on Input Quick Start Text, and what I get here is a blank form that I can start building my form, that I can start building out my, my sample form. So this time we're going to put together, so imagine the use case here is someone who's inspecting equipment, and they're inspecting it in a particular building, and there's just a couple of different types of equipment. So what I did is I just got a little text pad editor, and I have written down all of the questions that I would like my form to ask. So I'd like to know when the inspection started. I want to know what room number in the building it was in. I want to know the type of equipment, and if the equipment has got a name. I want to see a picture of the equipment, and I want to know if it's operational. If it's not operational, then I want the technician to see if they can diagnose the problem. And if they're able to diagnose the problem, then could they list out what the problem is? Also, I might want to collect some notes about the room. Maybe the room's really dusty, and that's why all the optical equipment is out of whack or something like that. And lastly, I'll probably want to grab a signature from the person so they certify that they completed that inspection. So I'm going to go ahead and just copy these, and I'm going to paste them right here in Quick Start Text. And what you're going to see in a second, when I click off or click over here or hit refresh, is that it has now built a form for me. Look, it's got my start time, my room number, type of equipment, so on, so on, so on. But you'll notice next to each one of these fields, there's a description of what kind of information we think is going to be held in it. Now, the start time is actually going to be a date and time that we want to put in here, not just text. So what I can do is I can go over here to that field, or I can even click on it here to select it. And then I go look through my quick reference chart over here, and I find where it says date and time, and I click the magic wand button, and voila, it's been turned into a date and time field. You see that over there. Room number is fine. We can leave that as a text field, but type of equipment, maybe we want to allow people to have a choice of different types of equipment. Maybe we'll have 3 different choices or more. So I'm going to go ahead and make this a choice by choosing this item here and clicking that magic wand. And my choices right now are choice 1, choice 2, choice 3. Let's give them something else. Let's pretend we're looking at a monitor, a power supply, or a PC. Let's say those are the 3 kinds of things that we can inspect. So now we have a list here with 3 items in it. The equipment name, that's fine. We can leave that as text. The picture field, well, that should be a picture. So we just go down to where it says photo, and I'm going to click the magic wand, and voila, that's become a photo field. Now, is the equipment operational? There's really only 2 answers to that, yes or no. So let's not make that a text field. Let's just make that a button group. So I'm going to click this magic wand next to yes and no. And now I've got yes and no buttons for that. Now we want to know, could we diagnose the problem? That's also a yes or no answer. So I'm going to click the magic wand again. And then what is the problem? Well, that's text. You're probably going to fill that in as text. And notes about the room, that's the same thing. And signature, we're going to want to have a signature for that. So I'm going to go over here to signature, and I'm going to click on the magic wand and turn that into a signature. And now I have an operational form, and I am ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And I'm going to take that form that I just had, and I'm going to push it up onto the server, clicking that orange button. And it says 1 new form type has been added. All right, that's cool. So where is it? How do we get to it? Well, let me open up my phone and we will take a look at the TransForm application. First, I need to check to see if I'm on the same Wi-Fi network. I am. Great. And then I'm going to do some screen mirroring. It should pop up here in a second. There it is. Tap out of that. And then I'm going to go to my TransForm application. And you can find the TransForm application by looking for Alpha TransForm in either the Apple App Store or in Google Play. So it's available for both iOS and Android. Okay, I've got a bunch of forms on here that I've already filled out, and I've already logged in, so I've taken care of all of that. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new blank form, and I'm going to add, so I clicked Add New Blank Form. And because I just created this form, I'm going to need to refresh. So up here where it says Refresh from Server, I'm going to tap on that. And when I tap on that, it loads all of my, and any new one up here so that I have it as a choice. And here's one called TT Inspection Form. I think that's the one we just created. Let's go ahead and tap on it. Yep, that looks right. So here's my inspection start time. I'm going to tap on that field and I can say now, I'm starting the inspection right now. And you'll see that it's filled in the time and all that. For the room number, I'm going to say that I am in room, I don't know, 39. And the type of equipment, let's say it's a monitor. And the equipment name is going to be a Dell 1500. Okay. And let's take a picture of it. So I'm going to say, take a picture. There's a monitor right there. It's even a Dell monitor. I'm going to tap Use Photo. And there's my photo. And if I wanted to, if there was something wrong with this monitor, like if the screen was cracked or something like that, I could actually annotate that just by typing on, tapping on the pen down here. I'm going to show you how that works. Tap on the pen. And I've got up here this little box. This is the magnification area, and you'll see that magnified area down there. So let's say I wanted to say it was the screen that was there. Let's say I wanted to make that a little bigger. And let's say there was a crack right there. There isn't, but let's pretend. And I wanted to circle that area. There it is. And I had to save that. And now that picture with a crack has been filled in. So now it says, okay, is it operational? In fact, this time it is, yes. And could I diagnose the problem? Well, that doesn't make any sense. There is no problem. I told you it's operational. So what we want to do in a moment is make it so we only ask these sorts of questions based on the question before it. I'll show you how to do that in a second. So diagnose the problem, that doesn't make any sense. What is the problem? That doesn't make any sense. I don't really have any notes in the room, but let's go ahead and sign this form. And I'll click OK. And now that that's done, I can go ahead, tap the menu and say, oops, sorry, go back here, and I will see that my form that I filled in is right here. It says new row, changes not uploaded. So this information right now is only being stored on my phone. I wouldn't be able to see it back here in TransForm Central until I click that upload to server button. But you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and delete this form because I want to make a change to its design. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to say delete, delete, and I'll move my phone out of the way for a minute. Let's go back into TransForm Central because let's make this design just a little bit nicer. So right here where it says the inspection form, this is the one that we just created. I'm going to double click on that. Now you're not brought back to that quick start view anymore. Instead, you're brought back to what's called the command properties view. But you'll see it's still the same form and each one of your fields are still there. The first thing I recommend after you build something in Quick Start is you go through here and you give your fields sensible names. This will pay off big time later on. So for this one, which was called the inspection start time, maybe I'll just call it start time. And for the room number, instead of field 2, I'll call it room number. And then this one, we'll call that equipment, equipment type. And then this one we'll call, now let's shorten it a little bit, EQ name. And this picture field, well, we can call that picture or photo or whatever. Is it operational? That'll be, let's just call that the operational field. Operational. Could you diagnose the problem? I'm going to say, could diagnose, was able to diagnose. What was the problem? We'll just call that problem or issue. They don't have to be so negative, it could be issue. Notes about the room, we'll just call that room notes. Whoops, sorry, the wrong place. Room notes. And then finally the signature field, we'll call it signature. Now, after I make a bunch of changes, I sometimes like to just save what's here because it isn't yet committed up to the TransForm cloud. So I'm just going to hit Save Commands and click to save changes. And now that's been pushed up there, which is great. But I'm going to dive back in. We're going to start doing a few more edits. And the one in particular is, it doesn't make any sense to ask any of these follow-up questions, like could you diagnose the problem and what was the problem, unless you knew for a fact that the equipment was not operational. Does that make sense? I mean, if it's not broken, then you can't say what's wrong with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take those fields that only make sense if the equipment is not operational, and I'm going to wrap them in what we call an if command. So I'm going to, or if statement. So I've if command, sorry. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to choose if, and I'm going to click enclose. And what that's going to do is it's going to hide these two controls. Here, I'll give you an example. You see how these controls are here? If I said false, they're going to disappear. The only one that's left is it operational? So let's say it's true, and we get the next two fields here. Great. So how do we make it appear and disappear based on an answer? Well, that's simple. Up here in this test condition area, I'm going to close that, and I'm going to insert a field name. And I'm going to say, one more time, and I'm going to say, is it operational? This has to equal yes. And there's actually two equal signs. I know this looks a lot like programming, but just follow the example down here. It's pretty easy. This equals this. Operational equals this. You'll notice that that's the name of our field. You'll notice there's this little pound sign next to it. That actually becomes important later. But don't worry about it for now. So now if I were to run this, I would find that I could selectively hide or show the questions there. But there's one other thing that I'd like to do, and it's actually kind of a big thing, and that is that in the room number or in the room, I might have multiple pieces of equipment. And I guess I could fill out a form for each one of them, but it might be better to have a form that lets me fill out information about multiple pieces of equipment in that room. So really what we want to do is we want to have the questions that we asked about the equipment, from the type of the equipment all the way down to what's the problem and even the if statement that goes with it. And we're going to want to allow you to ask that same group of questions over and over again, like a repeating group of data, if you will. And in fact, click down here and we're going to go down here to find something called data group. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click data group, start. And what that's done is it's taken all of the fields and it's placed them into a group. And I can keep adding members to the group. And each time I add to the group, it's going to ask me the same set of questions again. Now, when you build one of these, it gives you some default values here that you're almost certainly going to want to change. So item group 1, you're probably going to want to call inspections in this case. And the message that you see when it says, you know, are you going to add a new item group? You could say add new inspection. Oh, that's good. And the delete message, should you create one that you didn't want, should just be maybe delete inspection. And I think at that point, we're pretty good. There is one quirky thing, though, that I want to tell you about right now, and that is because we put this in a data group, fields that are in a data group get referenced by two, boink, that is, catch me here, two pound signs. So if you want this to work, it needs to be 2 pound signs. I know that's confusing. We're going to make this part easier. Not hard to learn, but it's just the one thing you need to know. All right. So we're going to go ahead and click Save. And click Save Changes. And I'm going to just push this back up to my phone. So let me find my phone again. Screen mirroring, turn that back on. There we go. Okay, and here we are back in TransForm. So I'm going to do what I did last time. I'm going to click Add a blank form. And I'm going to say Refresh from Server, because we just made changes to this form and the phone doesn't know about those changes. So I need to click Refresh. All right. And now I'm going to scroll down to the end and I'm going to find my inspection form right here. I'm going to tap on it. And you'll see it already looks a little bit different. In fact, you know, it's missing those questions because, about the equipment, because those don't appear until you add a new inspection. So let's just fill out the form. We're going to start now. We're going to say room number is 45. We're going to add a new inspection. The type of equipment is going to be a monitor. The equipment name is going to be a whatever. Let's call it a Sony monitor. You know, you could also have fields for red numbers, serial numbers, and so on. And there's even ways of doing lookups. So if you had a barcode on the back of that equipment, you can actually look up all this information and fill it in immediately. Okay, I'm not going to bother with a picture because you guys have seen how to do that, but let's say that this equipment is not operational. Whoops, you know what? I did it backwards. Oops. See what happened? When I clicked no is not operational, it's supposed to answer me the questions, but I made a little bit of a mistake. So let's go fix that mistake right now. And I'm going to do that first by dropping off the phone. Let's just delete that form. All right, set that aside for a moment. And let's fix my error. Now, what was my error? My error was if. Aha! I said if it is operational, ask the questions. I should have said if it's not operational. So I'm going to say no. Operational is equal to no, then ask these follow-up questions. Ugh, Dave, that's what happens when you do a webinar. I think you lose like half of your IQ points. So sorry about that. All right, let's bring the phone back in. And I think we're going to have everything working the way that we want it to. Whoop, here we go. So I'm going to say add a blank form, refresh from server because we just made a change. Let me click off here so that it, okay. And then I'm going to scroll down to the form that I want. I'm going to say it's the inspection form. Inspection start time is now. Room number is 543. Add a new inspection, type of equipment, monitor. I'm going to leave the equipment name blank, but let's put in a picture after all. So let's take a photo. Here's the photo. We'll use that photo. Okay. Just the reason it was asking for permission there is because it will encode the GPS location of the photo if you would like it to. This actually could be very helpful. Now we're going to say, no, it's not operational. Aha. And here we go. Could you diagnose the problem? I'm going to say yes, and then I can fill in the problem, what it was. Let's say bad power switch. What's the problem? Now I could have made it even more clever. Could you diagnose the problem? And if I said no, maybe it wouldn't ask me what the problem is since I don't know what it is. I was unable to diagnose it. And then here, if I wanted to add another inspection, I could just tap add new inspection. If I wanted to delete the one I just did, I'd delete that inspection. But here I am done, so I'm just going to sign this form. I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to upload this now to the server. There's also, if you saw, I just went back to my list of forms and I hit update. You can actually add a button right to the form that does all that for you. It's a little bit nicer. I just didn't bother to add it in right now. All right, let's see what's, get out of PowerPoint here. Oops. Hang on a moment. Quit. There we go. All right, so I filled in a form, and so if I've done it right, I should be able to find that form that I just uploaded and take a look at its data. And I'm going to do that here today in Management Console. There's another place to see it. You can see it in the dashboard also, but we're going to use Management Console. This is usually a good place just to test out your forms to make sure they're right. Now, when I first open this up, it shows me all the types of forms, but if I had made a change to a form type and it hadn't refreshed it recently, here it says refreshed, it may not have seen my form. You do see it, it's here, but I'm just saying if you open this up, you don't see your form, just make sure it's refreshed. So we're going to go down here to TT inspection form. That's the one that we created. And there is our record that was entered at 1:26 p.m. You'll see there is all the information. There's my photo. There's my signature. And that's about as far as we're going to take that today. So I hope you see that it's actually pretty easy to put together a somewhat sophisticated form. Now, next week, or next TransForm Tuesday session, I should say, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna enter in a whole bunch of forms, lots of them, hundreds of them, and we're gonna go take a look at them in the dashboard where we do some build up some dashboard tiles and perform some analytics and try to get some intelligent business data out of that. So I hope you can join us then. In the meantime, thanks very much for joining us today. We have come to the end of the session. Thank you, Sarah, for here. Let me see. It looks like we may have a question. And let's see where it is. Is there a question? Questions. Can you do interaction with lists and viewing with Alpha TransForm? So what you can do, and when you're talking about lists, you can interact with the data here. You can change it if you wanted to by switching to editable fields and make updates. But if you wanted to change like the dashboard and stuff and say show a list or a bar graph and click on that bar graph to drill down to the records that you're viewing, you can do that too. And I will show you how to do that in the dashboard. So hopefully that answered your question, but if it didn't, just as a reminder, you can send any question at all about TransForm to tfservice@alphasoftware.com. It's monitored by a team of us here, and we'll try to get you a full question as quickly as possible. All right, that's all I've got for today. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you at the next TransForm Tuesday. Take care and bye-bye.